and welcome to episode 91 of When the Flames Go Up, the ATFC podcast. It's the final episode of the season. We've got lots to cover. Scott Davies is now Aldershot manager. The season is over. Shots are staying in the National League. We've released a load of players and we give away some awards. There's also time for a little quiz at the end. So look forward to that. We play Pointless. Pointless ATFC with the goal scorers of the season. Lovely bit of fun. You should be able to play along at home, I believe. And let me know how you get on with your scoring. There's some great surprises to come. We didn't have time on the actual pod to do the rest of the quiz, so I'm just going to read out the questions and then give you the answers at the end of the round. So you can play along at home, and so will anyone on the pod, because I can't answer them myself. Such is life. Anyway, thank you very much for all your support this season. It's been a difficult one on the pitch, but generally feel like it's been decent on the pod. We've maintained some sort of balance. I feel like we were pretty positive during the good run and pretty negative during the bad run. And hopefully we can find a bit more levity next season, a bit more positivity to bring you. I guess thank you for listening, continuing to listen, and all your nice comments wherever I find them and see them. When I decide to seek them out, I usually try and avoid them at all costs. Another big thank you to John Coleman for keeping this club in the National League for our centenary year of football in Aldershot. So that's all. Enjoy this big bumper episode, and until probably August, maybe July, we might come back for a pre-season. We'll be back with more episodes, and it'll be episode 92. So isn't that quite nice? Enjoy the episode and up the shots. So the Shots finish the season with a 2-0 home defeat. The Truro already relegated last 2 games of the season to already relegated teams. Not the best way to end the season. Not the best way to end John Coleman's tenure as Aldershot Town manager. He's now left the club. He's completed mission objective 1 to keep us up in this division, and he's done so by 4 points. But 20th position is where the Shots end up. 87 goals conceded. I know not all John Coleman's doing is a new ATFC record. So let's hope this stops trending in this way, because we've now conceded 83, and 87 in the last 3 seasons. Anything more than 6 wins at home would be great next season. I think we can all agree. We'll touch on that, and then we've got to discuss the big news of this week, which is Dean Wood not wasting any time in getting his man into the job, and it's Scott Davies returning to the Shots for the first time permanently, and potentially as a player, who knows, down the line. But yes, we'll discuss him becoming Aldershot Town's new manager. I just wanted to mention that I don't know if I've mentioned it on the pod, or just in chatting to people on the pod, but this podcast was nearly called "There Is to Be Late Drama," and it was on the list, and it could have been, and it's very much because of Scott Davies that thing exists in the first place. So I'm all behind it. This could be an amazing podcast if it was called "There Is to Be Late Drama," because it finally would have come full circle, waiting 91 episodes for Scott Davies to finally arrive at Aldershot, and he has now. So let's discuss it. Maybe we can touch on John Coleman and the end of the season quickly. And Guy, I'll come to you first.
It's not been great, has it? I mean, I was just looking back at when did we actually last get a win? And I mean, if you look at the last 13 games of the season, 11 losses, 1 win and 1 draw in between all of that, which kind of had to break up what was looking like becoming, if you recall back earlier in the season, we had 8 consecutive losses, which was I think it was a new club record. And we pretty came close to beating that achievement if you want to call it an achievement, in the same season. So it was a very dispiriting end to the season. For my thoughts, very frustrating that we didn't take points, particularly against relegated teams like, Brackley and Truro. I thought we should have taken some points, but it just looked very flat, that last game as well. I'm just glad, and I think we all are, that the season is finally over.
Yes, absolutely. And recall last week I talked about the last 6 games of seasons on the pod, so we can finally update that. So that means in the last 7 seasons, Aldershot have ended that last 6 games with 4 defeats on 4 occasions out of 7. That's the 4th time in 7 years that we've done that. So not great. Ian, I'll come to you. Your final thoughts on Coleman slash Truro at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Truro game will be quite forgettable, but on a personal level, I took my two boys, age 4 and 7, to their first game, and I think they were interested and curious enough to want to return again. So some positives there. But yeah, I mean, it was better than Brackley, but that wasn't hard. And I just, yeah, really glad it's over. 46 points should not be enough for a 46 game season to stay up. And just thank goodness it was enough.
Yeah, one point a game over the season. Considering how many times we lost, I mean, it really doesn't bear thinking about. But yeah, I thought it was interesting on Coleman's post match in both the club one um, and the BBC one with Rob. Um, yeah, basically kind of said, well, obviously we've got this mutual agreement to part ways. But it's basically, I think he basically said it's a sacking because I said I accept the sacking, which I'm not. I think that's a sacking still, but I'm happy for it to go down on record as a mutual agreement. But it sounds quite sacky. So I thought that was quite interesting. CJ, I'll come to you. Your final thoughts on the season.
I'm fed up of losing to these part-time nothing clubs. I believe is the quota of the season, I think. Um, yeah, it's what it is. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad it's behind us. It's been one of those, I would say, a roller coaster season, but the roller coaster just kept going down and became more and more disappointing as it went on. So yeah, I think it was a roller coaster. I was very happy to get off quite quickly compared to recent roller coasters we've been on, if we keep describing it that way. Um, yeah, I think it's what it is. It's a whole new fresh start for us now, and obviously as we're probably about to speak about, it's the fresh start that we kind of needed. It's a fresh impetus that we had to go down. You look at the players that are going or gone, and it's almost a complete restart, plus probably any sort of sales or players who don't re-sign again. So I don't think these will be the last names that leave the club. Um, and it's nice. It's refreshing now, and everything this week building up to it has been um, sort of needed. I think the whole Coleman situation obviously was messy, with the manager coming out saying, "Oh, it feels more of a sacking," and then the chairman comes out and says, "Oh, it was a mutual agreement." And we sat down for a beer the next day, and he feels like it's more of a sacking. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, where do we stand on that? And then obviously, but look, it's nice that we've had clarity that we haven't had in recent years. And I think that's probably the freshest thing about this whole situation is whether it's clear, whether it's a clean way of doing it or not. It hasn't been, but it's done, and it's been done quickly and reasonably smoothly.
Reasonably smoothly, I agree. I agree. It's been pretty smooth, pretty quick as well to announce Scott Davies as Ultra manager, and then follow that up by announcing his assistant Mark Jones coming along with him. Um, so yes, Scott Davies, 38 years old. As you probably heard, if you've listened to all the interviews, like everyone, I imagine everyone has, then you'll know all this. So it's fine. I'll just 3 loan spells, scored a load of goals, scored a load of bangers. We obviously remember him from the Torquay one, the Bradford at home one, the Kidderminster away one, which I don't know if anyone's been able to find the footage. I know he was looking for it. I'd like to see it because I wasn't there, annoyingly, and that means I've never seen that goal. I've heard it become an even better goal. It's become like Maradona's goal every time I hear about it since that went in. So yes, shots managed by Scott Davies. Guy, your initial thoughts to the appointment?
Sure. I mean, I can understand the enthusiasm that seems to be sort of surrounding the fan base because he's such a popular player. But I also add a word of caution that popular players don't necessarily make for good managers. And we had Mark Molesley a few years ago, if you recall that. What's striking to me is that how quickly it moved. I think Dean Wood was saying in his interview that they'd had sort of a number of different candidates that were being looked at. Although I wonder how much of this was kind of momentum driven as well because of the Steve Gibbs article in the non-league paper, which seemed to hint at this was coming. My feeling is let's look at his record at Slough Town. Okay, it's a step up for him coming to Aldershot. He's obviously very enthusiastic and excited about it. If you've watched his interview with Aldershot this week, and he also seems to he seems to be prepared to work within the constraints that the chairman's giving him, which is you're going to have a much tighter budget to work with. He seems happy with that. I did go on and have a look at what some of the Slough fans are saying about him and the supporters trusts that on Facebook. They were chatting and saying that they were quite encouraged that he'd kept them up again this season. So even though sort of middling table performances over the last few years, he seems to have done quite a bit with very little, and he seems to be relatively good at recruiting and bringing in players and developing them. I think there's some frustration amongst Slough fans that they see themselves as a bit of a feeder club because of this. And so although Scott Davies has talked about making the step up to Aldershot, I think he's going to find that we're pretty much the same thing as well. So, I know that CJ is much more connected with that, so we'll probably hear from him about as to sort of how good his recruitment catchment area is, because I think one of the criticisms he was making about Coleman when he was appointed was that he knew very much players in the north, and what we really need are players, that we can bring in from the south. In terms of, for me, ultimately, the big thing is, what is the vision of the club? What's the direction? I've been saying this to you guys on the WhatsApp group, quite regularly. But for me, the thing that I find frustrating is that we have drifted somewhat over the last decade and a bit, particularly since we've come out of the league and went through the administration a second time. For me, I enjoyed the journey that we were on when the club reformed in 1992, and we had a clear vision. 10 years we get into the conference, 5 years into the conference, 10 years into the league. We made it in 16, but we had a clear plan. And I feel frustrated that we don't have that kind of vision yet. And I feel that if we had that kind of vision, then we start talking about what kind of football is involved in that, and then what kind of managers are relevant to that. To me, the conversation over the last week regarding Scott Davies's appointment or whoever it was going to be was very much about who's the new manager going to be, rather than what is it we want to achieve and which manager is going to be the most appropriate one for us to get to where we want to get to.
Yes, and it is a question that will come back to Dean Woods as this season develops and the next ones after that. Because yes, I think we are, obviously, as he's come out and said, we're in significant financial situation for definitely the next season. He's got to do some more balance in the books. We've got to bring more money in, all this kind of stuff. That doesn't, unfortunately, just can't happen over a summer. Sorry, just getting a bit West Country at the end of the season. So yes, that is going to be something we have to think about. And yes, obviously the dream is that Scott Davies is here for a long period. That's the dream. Aldershot have not tended to be very trigger happy with their appointments and firing. And yeah, I think this is the appointment, hopefully, that we've got time and space to look forward. But I think, yeah, for next season, it seems it's mid-table. Please, just don't be looking over our shoulder. That was the kind of message I think he's got from Dean for this season. So it is like a building season. That we're probably approaching for Scott Davies. Ian, I'll come to you next. Your thoughts on Scott Davies as new manager of Aldershot Town?
Yeah, a tough job, but I'm cautiously optimistic at this appointment. I live in Slough and I spend quite a bit of time at the ground. It's a place close to my heart. And I've watched them about 10 times this season when I can't get to the Shots games. And I think Scott has done a great job with them. He gets in good players. He does move them on, admittedly quickly. And I think Guy's mentioned frustration of being a feeder club. But I think that's probably the case for almost all clubs at this level. But I think he's got the contacts. What I'm most sort of looking forward to, if he can do the same with Aldershot, is they get some fantastic results. So yes, they might be 16th in the league, but they do give the better teams in that division a game. You know, they've had some great results, 3-0 away to playoff Hemel Hempstead. They beat Chelmsford 5-0 at home, things like that. So I don't think we've done enough of that Aldershot recently. And also there was the whole 1 year where Scott Davies made Slough unbeaten at home, and what we would give for decent home form, because that's what brings the crowds in. So I think if he can recreate some of the stuff just at a level above, then yeah, I think we can get the mid-table. And I just hope that the fans and Dean Wood especially is patient, even if it doesn't necessarily go so well to start with. I really hope we're patient with this one.
Yeah, great insight. Yeah, I think there's yeah, I always think of the as well as that kind of the home form stuff as well. I always recall all those kind of memes about, oh, he knows the club. Oh, he knows the club, this boy. Anytime, the Tottenham job was going, for example, Harry Redknapp knows the club, all this kind of thing. I don't know, fans, it's so easy to do it. The amount of times I've seen on shots where, wow, Nicky Balls, what's Nicky Ball doing? Just because he's a name and a face, it doesn't matter if he's any good at managing. Just get him in because he knows the club. I love it, and I want more of it. But obviously, I know got to make the right appointments at the right time. And obviously, Mosley turned out to not be the right one. CJ, I'll come to you. Your reaction to Scott Davis as manager?
I think the big thing for me is it screams stability. Screams stability in a time where we probably need it the most. Like obviously I'll take what you were just saying on is that he knows the club and he does know the club. He's been around the club for, even though he's been managing other like Slough, he's always around. Like he's in the fans group. He's been in the fans group for God knows how long. So he's aware of what the supporters are seeing and saying. He's been in the slab. He's been around the ground. Like, I think he was in the slab the other week. Someone was saying so. Like he's always involved. He's always been around. If he isn't managing a game, then he's often like we've seen him on the commentary with Rob. So the fact he's been around the club, he knows what's going on. He's still well connected, and the fact he was on the beers at Wembley and stuff like that with like Kirk Hudson, Anthony Charles, and stuff like that, it just shows that like that feeling is there. Like he is probably one of us at heart now. Like because of the like. I mean, you listen to the way he talks and the passion he speaks about Aldershot all the time. Like it was the most inevitable appointment you could have ever picked in your life. Like it was because he's the one that's always odds on when the job comes up, and it just like I said at the start, it almost screams stability to me. It's someone who understands the club, understands the level, understands clearly the level below. So if the dire situation does happen that we go down, it's someone who could probably bring us straight back up. Um, Similar feeling with like Tommy, where it was like someone who knows that sort of level below and coming up to the league above is probably the right level, the right gap. And I think this is the perfect club, the perfect time for Scott Davies to come in and put his own stamp on a professional football team and to be full time. And bring his own staff in as well. And we can say what we want about Coleman and everything, but he came in, he done his job, but he done it on his own. He did it with someone else's people. And that's, as a manager, is probably one of the hardest things to do because you've got to get these people on board with what you're doing when they were last on board with the person before you. So it's the same as any sort of business sense and stuff like that. You've got people around you that were the last man's job. So the fact that it'll probably be a clean slate in terms of the management team, I'd imagine, apart from obviously like the physio team and stuff like that, they'll probably stick around, and like the sports science guys, and then a whole new fresh start for players. Yeah, I think you guys have almost hit the nail on the head in terms of regionally. He's obviously got great contacts in terms of the game. Obviously, through his whole like gambling stuff that he does, going into clubs and speaking to them, he's probably been to all 92 clubs in the Football League. He's probably he's been around all the academies and stuff in the Premier League talking about gambling. So in terms of his contacts book, he's probably in a great spot. And then the other thing to speak about is obviously um, he brings these players through the non-league system. So you look at a lot of the guys he had come from step 3, step 4, almost your Josh Stokes unearthers that he's picked up and pulled along, and then they've got on to bigger and better. I think he was saying in his interview that I think 10 players he pulled out of like the lower levels, and 7 of them that I think they got like some sort of fee for, or at least. So if he can continue to do that, and that's the sort of appointment that Aldershot sort of need, is that you look at when Tommy Widgington came in, we obviously sold Tyler Cordner and we sold Justin Amaluza, and we generated some funds and then sold Tollard and sold Stokes. These are the sort of things that we need to do if we want to progress up the football pyramid. We're not going to generate 3, 4, 5, 6,000 fans every game unless we're battering everyone 4-0. So it's that catch-22 of, yeah, it's great getting these players in and they're fantastic for us, but we need to get that money for them afterwards as well, and that's the biggest thing. We spoke about it in the chat about like academy players at Aldershot, and a lot of them go off to bigger and better, and we don't really see any sort of money for them because of our status in non-league football. So if we can generate players from step 3, step 4 on the cheap, and then sell them on, perfect. And that's, I think, what Dean Wood's probably looking at with this appointment as well, is that there is a track record and a proven track record here of his team scoring goals, his team's being good at home, they're playing attacking football, and it's the affiliation with the fans and the club. It ticks a lot of boxes for a new chairman to come in. And like I said on the last pod when we spoke about Coleman going, this is Dean Wood's first appointment. So he hasn't rushed. He's rushed into it a little bit, but like we were saying, it was almost written in the stars. And even Scott Davies said this, that this was always going to happen at some point. He was always going to be Aldershot manager. It was inevitable, unless he went from Slough to the Football League. But it was always inevitable that he was coming to Aldershot at some aspect at some point.
Yeah, I mean that I was putty in his hands as soon as he said that, because that's basically ticked all my boxes, really. If you say I've had offers in this league, but I said it would feel wrong to be at any of those other dugouts, and I want to be at this one. That, I mean, you can do what you want with the club, rename it. That's all I need. The one thing I can't get on my head ahead of this upcoming season, obviously he played 23 times last year for Slough. Obviously the playing thing got asked. He's not come in as player manager, but potentially if there's injuries, come on for the last 10 minutes. It's just got me thinking about Thierry Henry when he came off the bench in his second spell for Arsenal and scored against Leeds. Oh, imagine Davis off the bench scores a free kick against Woking. I mean, it's and admittedly we're not going to have John Champion commentating it. I had to pull up the commentary because it is iconic. John Champion, he was obviously ready for this because everyone knew if he scores, this is like prime commentator gold. He said, he may be cast in bronze, but he's still capable of producing truly golden moments. John Champion. Superb. So let's hope we can get some Scott Davis gold at some point. Well, maybe let's not hope. I mean, I'm going to secretly hope it. Let's move on to the release list, slightly belatedly, but we'll run through them. I'm going to run through the players, and then we can pick out some things we want to say. So players have been released: Pat Nash, Kanaya Boyce Clark, Dejan Tetek, Harry Gandor, Kwame Thomas, Luke Jenkins, Ollie Scott, Matt Penny, Theo Widrington, Tyler Frost, Josh Brooking, and Marcus Dewhurst. A pretty big list compared to recent years. We didn't release that many last year. I think most fans were very miffed as to how people had stolen the living again at Aldershot. But yes, of course, there's a plenty of Wembley winners in that team. Ollie Scott, Frost, Tetek, Theo, Dewhurst, Thomas, Paddy. Potentially, he was on crutches. Jenkins was on crutches, potentially for that one. So yeah, I mean, I feel like it was the right list from my point of view. Ollie Scott, I'm sad that he's leaving. I think he was probably the best. Well, not maybe not just prospect, but I thought he was probably the best player of that bunch that I felt could move forward with this team. And I'll never forget his goal away at Stockport. We will always have that to send us into the third round of the FA Cup in 2022. So yeah, that's my main shout out. Oh, and of course Tyler Frost's 2 goals that I remember. His goal away at York to equalise in the last minute to basically keep us up. And he kind of did it again, really, in the beginning of December when he scored that goal against Alty in the very last minute, which is go down in folklore, despite me not being there. So it does rankle slightly. Guy, I'm going to come to you. Your thoughts on that release list?
Yeah, a bit like you, I'm not really surprised by the number and the players themselves going. I mean, you checked something there, which I think is important. That I think, we've touched upon, that Scott Davies is Dean Wood's first managerial appointment. It's his first chance to sort of make his mark as the owner. You can do that during the season, but you can't do that really with the players. You can really only do an overhaul at once the season ends. And I think this is also a sign of that we're now under new management, not just by the manager, but by the owner as well. If you look at some of those players as well, yes, I know some of them have been unlucky with injuries, like for example, Brooking and Jenkins not playing at all over the season. But then when you look at some of those who did come back from injury, whether it was Tetek or Gandor, they just weren't playing enough. I mean, Tetek had 22 starts out of 46 games. Gandor, 15. Scott, 14. Frost, 5. So they weren't really getting enough, games under their belt. I also feel as well that, it's a bit unfair to say this because I'm not an elite footballer myself, and so I think we went as far as we could with these players. I mean, they when they played well, you could see they were really trying. Maybe not the last couple of games, but certainly mid-season when they were playing, they would run their heart out. Gandor, for example, did a lot of that. But I think they reached their ceiling, and I think really it's time for a new a new broom, a new sweep, a new set of players. Now, of course, that does come with risks. We have no idea who Scott Davies is going to bring in. They could be better. They could be worse. We have no idea. And so I come back to the point that you said earlier, that this is about, a rebuilding season. If we can just, get mid-table, I think we'll be happy.
Yes, yeah, the number of appearances for those players, and it's also, of course, mentioned in Scott Davis's interview that discussions were had for value over minutes played. And listen, Dejan Tetek has performed some unbelievable cameo appearances when he's been in the team for like a 5-game stretch. I haven't seen a better midfielder probably in our National League days, other than Mane Oyeleki or Benyu. But he's not been able to string that together across the season when he's been with us, which is really unfortunate. But we have to say goodbye to those. And I suppose the interesting thing to note was obviously 3 goalkeepers leaving us: Pat Nash, Boyce Clark, and Dewhurst. So a complete refresh there. I think, yeah, I mean, we saw the Dewhurst one coming. Pat Nash probably as well, not getting enough game time. Boyce Clark, you don't know where the preseason might leave him. I imagine he'll get a National League gig. I think he's probably got enough highlights from his time at Aldershot to warrant getting a contract somewhere. But maybe for a bit more money, or not. He wasn't going to get enough money here. Ian, I'll come to you. Your thoughts on that release list?
Yeah, I think the release list is fair enough. The maybe talking points for me, but you just covered it already, was Boyce Clark. He'd gone off the boil in that recent run, but from arrival to end of Feb was absolutely superb. And I wonder if, a different manager, etc., might bring him back to his best. So, yeah, I'd be very interested to see where he turns up next. And yeah, Tyler Frost, I think, is the one that felt was a surprise. 14 appearances I've got down on my notes. Yes, he had injuries, but I think there was also talk that Coleman just wasn't selecting him for a period of time. So he'd be the one on the list that I think is probably unlucky to be leaving, and also interested to see where he turns up next.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, well, all of them as well. I'm almost invested in their careers now. Can't remember having this kind of. I mean, I know the shots where ex-players Fred is one of the most the most used threads. But usually I don't really care about old players. But these players have obviously they've gone to Wembley with old shot. They're like in our folklore forever. Kwame Thomas's flick on will never not exist. Like these, I want to know where he's going to end up. I mean, obviously I don't. I mean, he played against us when he was at Ebbsfleet, didn't he? And we thought we probably. I don't want to say the words got rid of him, but I'm going to say it. We got rid of him, and then he did come back, and he came back as our number 9 somehow. And yes, the Morecambe goal again. That's another moment that will live with me forever. So yeah, mixed feelings, I suppose, from the list. And CJ, your thoughts on that release list?
Yeah, I think it was one that was probably like you guys have sort of nailed on. Really, is that it was almost guaranteed to be those sort of players. I think obviously the Ollie Scotts, the Tyler Frosts, I would have assumed would have hung around another go and had another go with Scott Davies. But again, like you go through that list and you go, how many times did all of them play together, let alone play? Like I don't remember most of them being on the pitch at the same time together. Josh Brookin never even stepped on the pitch bar pre-season. So like you look at it and you go through and you go it other than Theo, who was probably Mr. Consistent in terms of his whole time at the club. But again, probably one of the bigger earners, but he was also the voice of the changing room, I'd imagine, or one of the big voices of the changing room and the club. So it's a clean sweep. It's the same situation with the sort of management team. Is that these were the last blokes? Well, the last blokes people. Like again, Coleman had the same thing. It's like these aren't my players; these are Tommy Widrington's players. So you're speaking about it, and you go, it's inevitable, and these won't be the last players to leave. Like if we can't sort Cameron Hargreaves' contract out, if we can't sort Will Nightingale's contract out, like this list will probably be bigger. This rebuild will be a lot bigger than we expect. I think the biggest shock to me is probably Pat Nash. I thought he would have stayed and been battling for that number 1 spot. I think he will end up back in probably step 3, maybe a step 2 club, depending again if Farnham go up and if they fancy him to come back. A lot of it depends on that, I guess, and I can see depending on Dawkins' situations that most of these guys turning up there. Obviously, with Niall McManus and Luke Moore obviously calling it at the end of the season, it almost leaves a Theo Widrington and Tyler Frost gap in that midfield. But and I sort of alluded to that in the chat the other day. Is obviously Mark White was not shy around his feelings of Theo Widrington when he watched us play and stuff like that. So I think a lot of these guys will end up around us. I think location's a big thing. I know Guy alluded to it earlier, is that a lot of our contacts, like Tommy, obviously signed a lot of boys from Kings Lynn. John Coleman's loaned in a lot of boys from the north. So it makes a big difference because you've got to get them in. So money wise for getting them in, plus you got to then house them. If you and that costs money because that's not cheap. That's not free to put them in accommodations and stuff like that the club will likely pay for. So you then go, if Scott Davies coming from Slough, it's not far away. And then you look at the signings he makes are usually Southern players, obviously for natural reasons because he's in the Southern League. But like you need players within the region and locality wise to come to you, because then you can provide better finances to them, and you can provide better resources to them because you're not having to house them. You're not having to do this, that, or the other. Obviously, if you get a young lad in from a Premier League club or a Championship club, you might have to put them in accommodation, like some digs and stuff like that. But you're not having to put them, like you look at I think when we got Taraj in and we got Stokes in, a couple others, they all lived in the same house, and that can obviously that's ideal. But if you've got family coming, like you've got older players coming in and stuff like that who have a family, you can't put them in digs with 21-year-old lads, because while they're picking their nose and flicking it, you've got your kid running around. It just doesn't work. Like it's all these little things. Plus, like Scott Davies is a local, so he doesn't have to have a house provided to him, where Coleman did. He was living in Surrey and stuff like that, provided by the club. So all these things are money off the books. Where Dean Wood said we need to save 200 grand or take 200 grand out of the budget, it's not him going, this is the budget, I'm taking 200 out. It's where can I save 200 from this?
Yes, absolutely. All those things to take into account as we look at who we're going to get in. There's not very many sticking around. Hill, Giban Rai, Brody Pert, Abrahams, and Barrett, we believe, are contracted. The rest either in talks or whatever is going to happen. We'll find out very soon. So here we go. This is the end of season awards from the podcast people. We've got Julian and Charlie sending in their voice notes. So I'll put them here.
It's always tough when you have to, look at these awards after a particularly challenging season, both in terms of, how we've performed on the pitch, but just the sheer amount of player and staff turnover as well. Here goes my selection. For Player of the Year, I've gone for Ryan Hill. I know he'll be a very popular choice. I just think he's been our most consistent player throughout the entirety of the season. He's played a number of different positions, probably, pretty much every position apart from up front and centre back, and obviously goalkeeper as well. And he's just been one of our most consistent players, both offensively and defensively, contributing to some big moments as well. So Ryan Hill for me in terms of player of the season. Lone player of the season is also a bit of a difficult shout. No doubt in my mind that if it wasn't for Coleman's loans during the second half of the season, we would be relegated. No doubt about that. So, players like Christy Grogan, Sam Inwood, Charlie Warren all contributed massively to keeping Aldershot in the division. But for me, I've just got to go for Sean Patton. He was only at the club for a short time, but what an impact he made. Winning goals against Yeovil, Scunthorpe, Braintree. I think 3 games in a row he scored match winning goals for us, which looking back across the season and how we finished was absolutely enormous. Sean Patton for me. No surprise that as soon as he left we started to tail off a little bit. In my opinion, we definitely missed him over the last 10 to 15 games or so. For goal of the season, I've gone for Josh Barrett against Dorking in the FA Cup. This was Tommy Widrington's final game for us. Obviously, no one knew that at the time, but it really was a real backs to the wall performance. We were well and truly under the cosh during that game, and Josh Barrett with a moment of magic, which we've all seen many times over the last couple of years, was an absolutely beautiful chip to catch the goalkeeper out when we'd been under a long period of sustained pressure, which very much helped us there and ultimately contributed to us winning the tie and getting through. And at least Tommy managed to sign off with a win. Game of the season for me, I've gone for the victory against Halifax at home, the 3-2 win, purely for the fantastic turnaround of 3 goals in 5 minutes to turn it from a two goal defeat to a 3-2 win. It was a fantastic game. Charlie Warren played an absolute blinder in that game. Unlucky not to win my vote for Loney of the season, because he was fantastic, especially when he first came in. Fantastic turnaround against a really solid Halifax team. When we went 2-0 down, thought there's no chance we're getting back into this, and showed fantastic fighting spirit to get back. If only we'd seen a bit more of it throughout the season, but that was a one fantastic game and great example. I think both of Charlie Warren's goals, actually, the free kick obviously was fantastic, but the twisting and turning he did for his second was top drawer. On funniest moment, I've been racking my brain. It's actually quite a hard one, and that probably kind of sums up how I felt as a fan about this season. There's not been much joy, sadly, but what I've gone for is just in terms of the context of the whole season turning into quite an important point, was Truro bottling the 2-1 lead against 9 men at home early in the season. I don't think we probably appreciated how good a point that was looking back at the time, but I just think, for Truro to be 2-1 up, having had our goalkeeper sent off and then Cam Hargreaves sent up going into added time, to then give away a completely pointless penalty by pushing someone in the box was very, very funny. So I've gone for that. Let's hope for more joyful moments and funny moments next season. And then finally for me, biggest surprise. I mean, where do you start? There's so many. I think the biggest surprise for me was probably the manner in which Tommy Widrington left, and how it happened and where he went. I think surprise/shock is a better way of putting it. I remember at the time just being totally stunned that it happened, totally stunned that it just seemed to come out of nowhere from a fan's perspective, and that he ended up going to Eastbourne Borough. Obviously, that feels like an absolute lifetime ago now. Lots and lots has changed. Obviously, Tommy's not at Eastbourne anymore. We've now moved on to our second manager since him, so life moves fast. But that was very much a surprise when that happened.
I will. So there we have it. The curtain comes down on one hell of a season, and the word that springs to mind is horrific, actually, because it was. We had so much hope at the start of the season with being crowned the trophy winners, hoping that the movement that would have caused, 20,000 fans, hoping that there was perhaps going to be some sort of incentive to get some of them along, seeing big crowds at the Rec and really gaining the momentum of the trophy. And of course, none of that happened, which is probably the biggest surprise for me, is that absolutely nothing happened off the back of our trophy win. But anyway, I'm going to just run through the categories for this year. So we've got a player of the season, and player of the season for me is going to be Will Nightingale. Will has played 38 games. Every single game for me, he has been a class act. And I don't know whether I'm looking at things from a non-manager point of view, but to have a defender as your player of the season when we've conceded well over 80 goals, which is a record. So I'm not sure whether I would be a good manager or not in that sense. But for me, I just love the way he would anticipate the ball. He would step forward into midfield and send a raking pass here or there. Some of those passes have, for me, just oozed quality. The one I'm thinking of now is the opening goal at Yeovil with Ollie Scott's strike from the edge of the box. That all started with a Will Nightingale precision pass down the right hand side for Sean Patton to get onto. Patton moved the ball across and Scott finished it with aplomb. So for me, it's Will Nightingale. The only other player that I would say came close would probably be Ryan Hill. And Ryan's played in virtually every game. I think the only ones he's missed are the ones where he was suspended for. So again, that for me is a captain's role. But yeah, it's a Will Nightingale for me. Lone player of the season, I would go for probably Sam Inwood. I think Sam's been the most consistent. Feels like we've missed him the most when he's not been in the team. And again, I'm just listening to myself talking about two central defenders in a defence that we've conceded so many goals. So I must be watching a different team perhaps. But Sam Inwood has oozed class again, and I'm just thinking ahead as to the fact that he will have a career in the EFL for sure. Goal of the season is 2 goals of the season for me. The first one I've mentioned already, and that's Ollie Scott's cracking effort from the edge of the box in the 8th minute away to Yeovil. And actually that for me was the game of the season too. But for the goal, I've described it already. Super pass by Nightingale. Patton finding space down the right-hand side, gets to the byline, crosses the ball back, and Ollie Scott is in acres of space to smash the ball home into the bottom right-hand corner for goal of the season. My other goal of the season is Charlie Warren's goal. I think it was the 3rd one against Eastleigh, away at Eastleigh. Again, a similar sort of move, actually, in that Hadi Gandor found space down the right-hand side. He crossed the ball over. Josh Barrett was at the far post, nodded it back, and it was just such a calm, cool finish from Charlie Warren to side foot the ball into the goal for 3-1. It just, at that moment for me, said that this lad's got some quality. You don't normally see calm finishes like that. And I take your mind back to the weekend in Truro, then there were a lot of finishes from a similar position that are ending up in the East Bank or in the High Street. So 2 goals of the season for me. Game of the season was the Yeovil away. Although it was only 2-1, it was probably the most complete performance I've seen in many a year for the Shots. And I was so privileged to be able to commentate on that one for BBC Surrey. And the first 15 minutes was just total dominance. Even after, I think, 12 seconds, James Henry had smashed a dipping volley just over the bar. Definitely worth more than 2-1. And this was game of the season again for me because of some performances. I thought Meerholtz was absolutely outstanding in that game in the centre of the park. And I think we have missed him since his injury. But interestingly enough, talking to Josh Staunton from BBC Somerset, who's an if you remember him, ex-Woking player, he was just blown away by our performance that night. And that's why I've made that the game of the season for me. Funniest moment, I'm really struggling with this one because the funniest thing is that there was no funny moments. It was a pretty lame season, and I can't honestly think of anything funny to think about, and I'm sure the other guys will come up with something. But the biggest surprise for me, I think biggest surprise was the fact that we lost 14 home games this season, especially again after last year. We only lost 5 at home last year. And again, after the back of a trophy victory, I just felt that we were going to go on and challenge. And the lads always take the mickey out of me because I one smell of playoffs and I'm all over it. But from the start of the season, I did genuinely feel that there was going to be a chance to get in the playoffs. So the biggest surprise is that we've lost 14 games at home, which is the most in the league by far. And coupled with that surprise is that only 6 teams visited the Rec this season and came away with nothing. And that is a huge disappointment. And you could argue that 1 or 2 of those that we won could have gone the other way as well. Alty was a last-minute winner. Again, we were behind with 10 minutes to go, I think. And Hartlepool, we won that one, and they should have absolutely buried us. So only 6 teams came to the Rec and came away with nothing. So that was my biggest surprise and probably my biggest disappointment too. So that's me signing off, Will, for this season. Really looking forward to our playoff push next season. I know when I say that, the guys will rip the proverbial out of me. But we've got Scotty at the wheel. Scotty's got some great contacts. We're recording this a couple of days after hearing of his appointment, and we know already that he's made something like 40-odd inquiries into players that are out of contract. And again, what I love about Scotty is his attitude. Everybody else was moaning about a budget cut. He was saying, it's 5 times more than I had at Slough. So again, great positive thinking. He's going to be giving us his all. And from a commentary point of view, I'm really looking forward to talking to Scotty before matches, after matches, and getting his insight, because his post-match and pre-match, I think, will be really interesting and give us some definite insight into what he's thinking and why he's doing what he's doing. But that's it for me, signing out. And it's a long time till pre-season, and already I can't wait. Cheers, Will.
And then we'll be back. We'll go around the room. We've got player of the season, lone player of the season, goal of the season, game of the season, funniest moment with a question mark, and biggest surprise with a question mark. I'm not sure why I put them. So we'll go around the room, little reasons for each, and see what we come up with. Let's go around the same way we've been going all evening. Guy, come to you. Player of the season for you.
I've got two, but I mean, for me, the player of the season has to be Ryan Hill. I mean, 42 games, 9 goals, top scorer, second in the assists with 4 assists. It's not just, playing so many games. It's also that he played in so many different positions. He played in defense, at right back, he played in midfield. Sometimes he was even up front. And he was consistent. I think that's what, does it for me. And that was rewarded. He was rewarded with that, with the captain's armband in the second half of the season. I would also maybe add, I don't know whether maybe he sort of comes a little bit further down, but Will Nightingale as well, to me was a significant player. 36 games, 3 goals, 1 assist. He was solid as an individual player. The reason why I wouldn't give him player of the season is simply because we just leaked too many goals. We lost too many games. And, for a centre back, you would expect that to be a little bit tighter.
Yes, that's fair. But then you could probably put the same thing on Ryan Hill, who is my player of the season. Yes, similar reasons. Always 100%. Has basically been 7 out of 10 most weeks in one of the worst Aldershot Town teams you're ever likely to see. So I mean, it's not a great prize to be the best of this team, but he is for me. Ian, your player of the season.
Yeah, same. Ryan Hill on a default basis. Availability is the best ability, I think Scott Davies has been saying, and the fact the only games he missed was suspension, and that was due to just getting stuck in and not playing in a good time. I also enjoy, I think you've mentioned it on the podcast before, but his chat and his sledging, you can hear it quite vividly from the South Stand, trying to wind up the opposition and encourage his own teammates. So yeah, Ryan Hill.
Perfect. So he also wins the shitouts of the year award, which is a great award to have. And CJ, you're going to complete the quadruple.
Yeah, I was going to go for player of the season, Josh Brookin. I thought he was complete. We didn't lose a single game with him in the squad, and no, I'm joking. It would probably be, yeah, of course. I think three names stand out to me this year, and it's Ryan Hill, Will Nightingale, and Cameron Hargreaves. I think Cameron Hargreaves' jobs always go sort of underappreciated at times. I think his energy around the pitch, his energy on as a leader as well. Maybe he's not the most vocal, but he leads from example, like from his energy around the pitch. Ryan Hill is obviously the natural pick for everybody. Will Nightingale was a class above every time he sort of played. I think it was only the last couple games at the end of the season where I think he actually got done a couple times in a game. It was very rare throughout the season when he did play that he was getting beat 1v1 or any sort of situations. So yeah, I think Ryan Hill's the natural pick, captain, leader. You can see he cares. You listen to his like interview at the end of games and stuff like that. And he's the one that stands up. He's the one that's open. He's honest. Even the last interview of the season. So yeah, Ryan Hill's the natural player of the season for me. Will Nightingale close second, and then Cameron Hargreaves in third place.
Nice. So yeah, we've had plenty of different players this season. So the next award is lone player of the season. Nice, interesting award. We've had plenty of lone players if you look back from the start of the season. Guy, who have you come out as your lone player of the season?
I don't think it's going to be any surprise to anyone, but Sean Patton. Joined us end of January, stayed with us less than a month, 6 games, 5 goals, 1 assist. I mean, what more do you want? He was there in the middle of that sort of winning patch, that golden form that we had. His last game was in the win against Braintree, and then after he left, 13 games in which we had 11 losses, 1 win and 1 draw, which I alluded to at the start of the program. I think that tells you everything.
It really is the tail of the tape, isn't it, Sean Patton and his and if you look at a graph of him leaving, my God, what a way to look at the season. Ian, your lone player of the season.
Yeah, Sean Patton as well. Without his goals, don't think we'd have stayed up. Equally, I don't know how much of our subsequent decline can be down to his downfall or his recall alone. But yeah, we'll never be able to prove or disprove that. I'd also give a special mention to Charlie Warren that his goals, especially sort of December, January, before Patton arrived, was also pretty crucial. Unfortunately, he's sort of marred by being part of the team for that dreadful run at the end. But Charlie Warren as well was very, very good as a lone player. And maybe he'd be someone we'd see again, but I suspect not. And he might be well destined for a loan spell in League Two.
Yeah, I think he's probably done enough, Warren. But yeah, CJ, your lone player of the season.
I think Sean Patton's probably the answer to everything, really. If it wasn't for him, I think, as you guys alluded to, we wouldn't have probably stayed up. Obviously, we spoke about it a few weeks ago. Sean Patton leaving was almost a catalyst to that run of results. No, it's not his fault, but it almost it all aligned after his leaving. So obviously, him, Charlie Warren's link-up play. Obviously, Inwood had a decent enough impact at the beginning. Christy Grogan also had a really good impact being partnered to Will Nightingale. I think he was unlucky with the red card that sort of took him out of the team for the period of time that he was, because he was someone who almost really got involved in what Aldershot is and sort of bought into it quite quickly. You saw him with the fans and stuff at the end of games, really like fist pumping and almost jumping into the crowd, and the excitement that he brought, and even that like goodbye message at the end, like we didn't really get that from any other player bar sort of Christy Grogan. So I think it was Sean Patton obviously ticks the box quite quickly.
Nice. Yeah, Sean Patton is probably the clear and obvious winner. I did put Sam Inwood down. I mean, yes, without Sean Patton's goal, we'd probably go down. But I thought Sam immediately got himself acquitted at this level and looked like a quality defender in a very bad team. And yeah, gave us all. Launched so many throw-ins into the box. Don't think we scored from any single one of them. But yeah, he's broadly my joint first lone player of the season. Goal of the season. We scored quite a lot. It turns out. I think we scored 67 in the season, but not many stick out in my brain. Any sticking out for you, Guy? What was your goal of the season?
Yeah, they're kind of two. So there was an individual goal for me, which was actually, and we've talked a little bit about him, Charlie Warren, when Charlie Warren's got free kick against Halifax, where I think it was Ryan Hill teed him up, just gently touched it to him, and he bent it around the wall and beyond the keeper. It was a beautiful single individual goal. So, and also what I liked about it was the fact that it was one of the very few instances we actually scored from a free kick. We had so many free kicks at goal, and we did very little with them. So that's why it stood out for me. But then there was also another goal for me, which was Ollie Scott's against Yeovil. And the reason I like it was because it was very much a team effort. I think it started from a throw in by Ryan Hill on the right hand side. There was about, I think I counted it, 10 or 11 touches. It basically went back, down the line, back into defence, then played forward, and then it was a cross from Warren again into Ollie Scott, who'd been charging up from defence, and he just whacked it with, I think it was with his left foot, but sort of it curled right into the right side of the goal. It was a beautiful, team worked goal. And so for that, to me, it's one of those two. Charlie Warren in both of them.
Nice. And Ian, what do you reckon for goal of the season?
So I wrote down 3 different goals, and depending on the order, I wanted to try and give something that someone else hadn't. And two of the three were the two that Guy just mentioned. My favourite of those was Ollie Scott at Yeovil away, but we can't overlook Tyler Frost against Altrincham, that winner. That just seemed to alight everything. Was it 9 defeats prior to that? We were behind in the game, I think, and then managed to get that late winner. And again, all these moments lead to these 46 points and safety. So I'll go with the Frost one in the end. But yeah, big fan of the 2 goals mentioned by Guy.
Nice. Yes. Yeah. That I did love that Warren free kick. It was brilliant. And yes, the Frost goal was always going to come up. It's probably the best hit of the season. I would know you maybe put Brodie Pertz at Woking as the best well hit from outside the box. Yes, and I think it's for the moment. It's all the context around it. We just come back from being 1-0 down in the 88th minute, I think, and we turned it around, scoring in the 95th minute. On a breakaway from all the way from Boyce Clark. I mean, magic, absolutely magic. CJ, your goal of the season?
Yeah, I was just sort of like thinking about it now, and I think for impact wise, I think James Henry's penalty at Truro early on. I think if that doesn't go in, it was such a key moment in the season there where we had obviously the Dewhurst red card in the game, and it almost looked inevitable we were going to lose that game. And then obviously right at the last second, James Henry steps up for the penalty, and it's the one person you probably would have put your life savings on, putting that in the back of the net at that time. Yeah, so I think that's for impact wise. I think that would probably be my goal of the season. If you're going for like the actual like bangers that you guys have described, then obviously Brodie Pert Woking, Ollie Scott's goal was excellent as well. So I think, but even like impact wise, obviously Sean Patton, some of the goals that he scored and stuff like that, right? And then obviously Kwame Thomas's toe poke at Morecambe. So it depends on how you describe goal of the season. For me, if we're going to go for the best goal, I think Tyler Frost's one where he's cut in, it's the East Bank end under the lights. I think for like that sort of special moment, Charlie Warren's free kick. So I'll go impact wise. I'll go James Henry's penalty. For best goal, I'll go Tyler Frost.
Nice. Good to get a James Henry mention. He might come up later. Game of the season. I mean, you've just mentioned it there for the Kwame Thomas moment, but yeah, for me, I looked back through the fixtures. I tried to find some good games in there, but I couldn't find any. There was none that really hit me as special or like, oh wow, a result I'll remember forever. So that one for me, Morecambe away, 2-0 win is my game of the season. Guy, I'll come to you.
Have you forgotten Halifax? I mean, that was goal of the game of the season to me. I mean, 2-0 down, looked like we were dead and buried, and then we turned it around in 5 minutes with 3 goals. I mean, it was just wild, mad. I mean, so, to me, that, and also what also made it stand out for me was that once we went 2-0 down again, I was starting to think, oh God, as we've been doing over the whole of this season, we're just letting these games get away from us. And then we somehow not only sort of managed to sort of pull a goal back, but then equalize and then go on to win it. And that was after 4 previous 3-2 defeats. So to actually win a 3-2, I think it was something else for me. And as you know, I sort of mute you guys in order to, and everybody else I know, and avoid social media so that I can actually watch these games in peace. I was watching this late at night, and it was difficult to hold it all in. I almost woke up the whole house as a result of watching this game.
Completely forgot about it. I'm so sorry. I've just looked back at it. Yes, of course, that was the best. Well, definitely the best home game. There's not many to pick from, but yes, 2 Charlie Warren goals. That was one of the goals, wasn't it? That he scored was the free kick that started it all. Now it's all coming back to me. Yes, that was February. That's crazy. Well, I'm sure that will come up again. But yes, Ian, your game of the season.
Yeah, I'm Halifax at home. It had been, a tough period for the shots and a tough period for me personally. So to be there and see that 6 minutes of sheer joy, the comeback, and that's, why we go watch football, is for those moments, all those awful defeats at home to Truro and Brackley, etc., are made worth it by 5 minute spells against Halifax with 3 goals. I'd also say that the best game possibly that comes close to that would be Scunthorpe at home. We were just so dominant in that first half. 3-0 should have been 4-0, a missed penalty, unfortunately. But the Scunthorpe was probably the best result of the season, bearing in mind the league positions. But yeah, Halifax, I'll remember that one for a long time. Very special.
Right, and CJ.
Yeah, Halifax for me as well. With special mentions for the Morecambe game early on in the season, where they just put a squad together and we absolutely battered them for 90 minutes, and I don't even think they got out their own half. And obviously the Scunthorpe game, but yeah, I think that Halifax, that the last 15 minutes of that Halifax game, I think is probably not the actual game itself, just the 15-minute period is probably the game of the season.
Yeah, superb. Right, we're going to move on to funniest moment and biggest surprise. So we can do them both together. My funniest moment. Took me a while to think of anything funny, but then I thought, in hindsight, now that we didn't get relegated, Marcus Dewhurst getting sent off at Truro for clearing the ball away was pretty funny if you watch that back. Biggest surprise is Charlie Warren's complete drop off in goals. He looked like a championship player for a bit, and he's probably ended the season as a bang average National League player. He'll probably find his way in the middle of those two in League One or League Two. But that's what was my biggest surprise at the end. Guy, come to you.
So, funniest moment for me was an Ollie Scott tackle on Ryan Jones against Yeovil. Jones had literally just come on, and about 2 minutes later, he was clattered by Scott, who basically took him out. Not only had him flying, but actually set up for a very good, attempt on goal, which sadly didn't go in. But it was just memorable because it was a one shots player against an X shots player. So that to me was pretty funny. In terms of surprises, I mean, I've got a bunch of them here, but just to sort of run through them. I think a number of things. Obviously, podcast related. It's CJ, wearing his green third shirt. That it actually arrived in New Zealand in time for him to be able to take part in this episode with it. I think also, overall, I think surprising that we didn't really sort of build on the FA Trophy win last season. That we kind of just let it slip. We didn't really do enough to build on it. First half of the season, I think actually, I mean, in hindsight, probably it makes sense, but we forget that Widrington leaving was a bit of a surprise. The club said we have a statement, and everyone we were speculating what's it going to be about, and then Tommy says he's off. So that was a little bit of a shock, a bit of a surprise. I mean, admittedly, the results were leaning that way. Second half of the season was probably, the ownership changing, because you would have thought that if there was ever a time for change of ownership, it would have been after the FA Trophy win. You go out on a high. Why leave it for another 7 or 8 months? So these are all things that are off the pitch, really. But in terms of sort of individual players, you mentioned Dewhurst and his sending off, and I think to me that Dewhurst was a surprise. He seemed so solid last season. He seems quids in on being our number one. And I think now we think about it, that sending off against Truro was probably the start of him disappearing from the scene, to the point where he's now been let go. A bit disappointing there. Also, other surprises, Josh Barrett, he never really kind of got clicking this season as well. Crispin Abrahams as well. I was thinking, given that he went down with Maidenhead last season, actually with quite a good number of goals, I was expecting him to do almost like a Kwame Thomas, sort of being a solid man up front, and we never saw him. But flip to all of that, actually, I have to say one positive surprise for me actually was Theo Widrington. Given the grief that he was getting, given the problems that he was having with the fans when his father was was still manager. I was surprised that not only did he stay, but that actually, the fans and him seemed to sort of work it out. At least it seems to me. And he became a fairly sort of regular, reliable, solid player in the Coleman era as well. And so yes, I know he's leaving us now, but that was one of the nice things of the season to see, Theo actually becoming sort of accepted by the Aldershot faithful.
Nice. Been a very surprising season for Guy. So many surprises. Oh, also, I'm not surprised that Aldershot didn't take advantage of the FA Trophy. It didn't surprise me at all. I thought maybe things would be different. Ian, I'll come to you. Your funniest moment and biggest surprise.
Yeah, I'm really struggling with anything particularly funny. Obviously, there's plenty of funny conversations in the WhatsApp group, but they're not going to mean a lot to the listeners. So I'll just move on to the biggest surprise. I think for me, it was how bad we were post-Feb. That 4-game run. So we beat Braintree. We ran into that 4-game run where we were playing York, Rochdale, Forest Green, Carlisle, where I thought, okay, well, I don't expect too many points here, but I thought we were playing well enough to get a handful of points and have some good performances, but they never came. And then just from there, how badly we dropped off and ended the season. That was the biggest surprise, because I really thought we'd got ourselves to a place where we were playing well enough to, maybe reach 12th place, something like that. So, surprise. And absolutely right about the ownership situation and Tommy leaving, that maybe it was for the best him walking away. It would have been a huge call to dismiss him after Wembley, etc. But the results, the performances, September, October were concerning, and I'm glad that he made the decision rather than somebody forcing it upon him. So grateful for Tommy for his time. And I think I'd probably go with that as the biggest surprise. I think where he ended up, Eastbourne as well, would be the surprise. Did often wonder if with Tommy that it might not exactly end with a fairy tale ending, etc. But when he turned up at the bottom of the league below, that would be my biggest surprise overall.
Nice. Yeah, there was actually, yes, there is quite a lot. It's been quite a big year. We're going to need the 3 months to decompress, I think. I'm just thinking about the funny things, and the most I've laughed for a long time, maybe about Aldershot. There's some guy atting Dean Wood on Facebook, and after announcing that he'd be getting rid of John Coleman. Don't want to be rude, mate, but what the fuck are you doing? And I'd honestly, it's one of the funniest things just to read at Dean Wood. After all, kind of having months of him on Facebook saying, "Can someone drop the trees?" Just to have someone message him directly. I thought it was so funny. CJ, I'll come to you next. Your funniest moment and biggest surprise.
I think the funniest moment was probably me talking about the playoffs when we went on that run of games. I generally had it in my head that we've turned a corner and we're actually alive and kicking, and turned out we're actually in the dumps. We actually spiraled, and we were closer to the National League South than we were to going anywhere near League Two. So I think that for me is probably one of the funnier moments. I think surprise of the seasons, obviously, I think the ownership situation, it's something that I don't think anyone saw coming. And then secondly, probably Tommy Widgington going out of the blue. It was just that we just won in the FA Cup. And then all of a sudden, statement comes out and Tommy Widgington's parted ways with the club or whatever. So, I think those two are the biggest ones for me.
Nice. Thank you very much. And that is the end of season awards that we're giving away. And good to reminisce about the full season. It's easy to, well, I've basically just gone on the last 10 games because that's all I can really remember. But yes, it's good. It's good. But did have some happier moments in there despite finishing 20th. Right, we've got just about enough time to do a bit of an end of season quiz. Now we're going to start with a game I've devised called Pointless ATFC, goal scorers in 25-26. Now, if you've played or watched Pointless, you'll know what's going to happen. But for anyone that doesn't, I gave myself 100 seconds to list as many scorers for the shot in league matches only this season. I did have to go and fill in the rest because it wouldn't be a game if I just, because then I'd have to. I need to know what their pointless answers are in my head. Your job as players, Guy, CJ, Ian, and of course everyone at home listening, is to try and get a pointless answer. But the players that you do guess might give you a certain number of points. We'll add them up at the end and see who wins. So we're going to do 2 rounds. So you got to come up with 2 players. Hopefully, you got to come up with different players. So the way this goes around is going to be interesting. I'm not going to flip a coin. I'm just going to go with the same way we've been going. So we'll go Guy, Ian, CJ, Ian, Guy. Not sure if that is actually fair, but let's go that way. So yeah, league matches only, and then I'll tell you how many points you've accrued. Guy, you're up first. Name an Old Shot scorer.
Nightingale.
Guy's gone for Nightingale. Nightingale gives you 55 points. It's 55 out of 100. That is, Guy. Ian, you are up next.
Okay, risky one. Archie Taylor.
Archie Taylor. It's risky, but it's right. It's 10 points. It's the lowest score on the board that isn't a pointless answer. So great answer there from Ian. CJ, round to you.
I'm going for it. Kieran Gilligan.
Kieran Gilligan is a pointless answer. What a shout. I didn't think I'd hear a Kieran Gilligan today. God's sake. Well, that's really put a spanner in my pointless answers box. And CJ gets another go for the second round. So you've got to add to your 0 here, CJ. Who are you going for your second guess?
Matt Penny.
Matt Penny. It is another good answer. Because it's going to give you just 17 points. I know he scored so recently, but I couldn't even think of him, and it literally happened 2 days after I started doing this quiz. Ian, round to you.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether to go risky again or go sort of a safer option just to stay under.
You were on 10, CJ is on 17. So you do need to go risky because Archie Taylor is the lowest. You need to find a pointless answer.
Okay, let's go. Did Ben Jackson score?
Ben Jackson did not score in the league.
Okay.
I think he might have scored in a couple of National League games.
So then I'm going to go for, I think, Abrahams.
Christian Abrahams did score
in the league.
For Aldershot. In the league, he did. That is 15 points. You know what? Let's do a third round. I'm feeling it. So we'll start again with you, Guy, for the third round. Can you come up with? So you've had a 55 and a 15. So you're up to 70.
I'm losing this anyway. I'm going to lose this anyway, aren't I? Oh God, who can I think of just scored but not enough? They all scored but not enough, didn't they? I mean, that's
Loads
the problem.
Of players scored,
but not enough.
Scorers.
I'm just going to bomb it, aren't I? I'm going to say Scott. I
Ollie
don't know how
Scott
many-
did score
Yes, at least one.
at least one. Obviously, it was one of the other goals of the season. It's 28 because I think it might have been his only goal.
Oh, good. Right?
Yeah, it was,
That is
yeah,
right,
yeah.
right?
That is
I
good.
I
That is
wanted
good.
to,
Yes,
okay, fine, good. Okay.
you're on 98 points. Ian is on 110 after the Ben Jackson guess. Who are you going for your third guess?
Well, I think I've lost regardless, so I might as well just go ambitious. Maxwell Mullins. I'm just sort of going through the disappeared, basically.
Yeah, unfortunately, did not score in the league. That's unfortunate. He did. I'm sure he scored in the. Did he score in the FA Trophy or something? Did we lose 2-1 in that? Can't remember, but that is unfortunately incorrect. There are quite a few incorrect answers, to be fair. CJ, well, yeah, okay. So Guy can win if you bomb this question. So pick wisely.
Callum Stewart.
Callum Stewart. Now, yes, he did score. But how many points is that going to give you? Because it was so recent, it's a 65-point answer. 65 plus 17 is 92. How fun. Guy, you got 98, and Ian 210 in the end, despite you had the best answer from the start almost. Kieran Gilligan is the best.
I'm
So if you're
glad that
playing
I
at
did
home,
yeah. I'm glad I did so well not knowing the rules. So
you didn't even know the rules. Absolutely unbelievable. So I'll just run through the some of the numbers that I've given. Ryan Hill 100, Paddy Gandor 95, Charlie Warren 90, Kwame Thomas 86, Sean Patton 80, Brodie Pert 80, James Henry 75, Josh Barrett 69, Callum Stewart 65, Will Nightingale 55, Tyler Frost 53, Beard Widrington 49, Cam Hargreaves 42, Ollie Scott 28, Dan Tetek 30, Jed Mearholes 19, Matt Penny 17, Tristan Abrams 15, Arch Taylor 10, and of course CJ straight away got Kieran Gilligan, who scored one league goal for the Shots, as a pointless answer. There were two other pointless answers that I put down. First one, James Claridge scored 3 league goals for Aldershot. What the hell's going on there? And Ryan Jones scored 1 league goal for Aldershot. Somehow. Don't remember that, but he scored 1, so he was the other pointless answer. The other incorrect, Kiban Rai scored in the FA Cup. Sam Inwood, Christy Grogan, Keane Anderson, Raheem Shackelford, Mullins, Armitage, Penman, Jenkins, Jackson, all incorrect, did not score in league games for the Shots this year. And that's been Pointless ATFC. I had fun making it. Hope it made sense at home. We've run out of time to do the rest of the questions. So what we're going to do is they'll just be at the end of this. That CJ, Guy, and Ian can't answer them on the pod, but you'll answer them when you listen back to the pod. How about that? Thank you, Guy, Ian, CJ, for coming on the pod to end the season.
thank you. Look forward to next season.
Yep.
Oi, David for Blue Army.
Okay, so here is the rest of the quiz that I was meant to give the team, but I'm just going to give you the answer because I've done the research now. So here we go. And it might be a bit depressing because some of these questions aren't, they're not fun. Anyway, first round of the end of season quiz 25-26 is called Leave the National League Before the National League Leaves You. That was Jamie Carragher to Casemiro, but could be applicable to any old National League team to Aldershot. Question 1. Shots completed their 13th consecutive season in the National League this season. We'll obviously do our 14th. We're still way ahead. Only one club in the EFL can match this for present consecutive seasons in the same division. Who is it? Now, this could change on the final day. That's my only clue that I'm giving you. If you listen to this over the summer, then fair warning. Question number 2. What is our average league position across these 13 seasons? This is a multiple choice one. A, 13th, B, 15th, or C, 17th. See how you get on with that one. Number 3. It's a question that's on everyone's lips. And it could have happened again this season. That's kind of why I put it into this quiz. Question number 3. How many times have we finished 18th position in the National League? Bonus points if you get any of the years that we did that in. Number 4. This one's quite depressing. Only one striker has scored more than 20 goals in a season since relegation in 2012-13. That's Brett Williams. Ryan Hill finished on 9 league goals this season. But how many other times has our top goal scorer for a league season been in the single digits? So discount this season, but how many out of the last 12? The 12 before this one. The 12 since relegation have been in single digits. I'll give you bonus points for naming any of the scorers in those particular years, because it's happened. I mean, it's happened more than once, let's say. And question number 5. Shots have conceded 80 goals or more in the last 3 seasons. 83, 83, 87, an ATFC record for the last one. When was the only other ATFC season that we've conceded 80 goals? Clue for this one. The clue for this one was actually too easy, but Scott Davies was top goal scorer in that season. Okay, let's go through the answers for that round. Shots completed their 13th season consecutively. One club in the EFL can match that for present consecutive seasons. It is, of course, Newport County, who we missed as they went up. We went down on the same season, and we've both been in the same leagues ever since. Could change on the final day, who knows? Our average league position across the 13 seasons is 15.2. So if you had B, 15th, you are correct. How many times have we finished in 18th position? 3 times. 2014-15, 19-20, and 22-23. 3 times. So that average is the average is kind. Those 3 seasons have really helped us. Only one striker scored more than 20 goals, blah, blah, blah. How many times has our top goal scorer in the league season in the National League been in single digits? Sing it after me. It's 3 seasons. And bonus points for the following strikers: Scott Rendell, Ethan Chislett, Corey Andrews. Wow. I scored single digits as our top goal scorer. And question number 5. When was the other season that ATFC have conceded 80 goals? Clue: Scott Davies was top goal scorer that season. It was 2008, 2009. Next one is about this season. How many of the 6 teams? Oh, hold on. This is question number 1. Just launch straight into it. Why not? How many of the 6 teams to do the double overs can you name? 1 point for each. Give you a bit of time for this one. This one's might need to pause the podcast and jot these down. 6 teams did the double over us. That is absolutely bonkers. I mean, it's not bonkers for most of them. And similarly, question 2, shots did the double over just 2 teams in a 25-26 season. Can you name them? 1 point for each. So beat them home and away this season. Who was it? Next up, question 3 is a higher or lower. 1,366 was the attendance versus Boreham Wood this season. And it was the lowest attendance since the 2022-23 season. But was it higher or lower than the Tuesday night game against Boreham Wood, 31st of January 2023? Higher or lower? Higher or lower than 1,366 who were in attendance in 2026? And the final two questions of this round are about penalties. Question 4. How many penalties were Aldershot awarded this season? And then question number 5. How many of those were missed? How many of those were missed? I said. Okay, let's go through the questions. You might have just got the answer to question 4. How many of the 6 teams to do the double over us can you name? 1 point for each. They were, sing it after me, York, Rochdale, Carlisle, Southend, Forest Green, and Woking. Question 2, Shots did the double over just 2 teams in the season, 1 point for each. Morecambe was the most recent, easiest one to remember. The other one was Hartlepool. Did the double over Hartlepool. Question 3, higher or lower? 1,366. Was that higher or lower than the attendance when we played Boreham Wood back in 2023? It was higher. There was just 1,215 in attendance against Boreham Wood back in 2023 for a 1-0 defeat. Question 4, how many penalties were Aldershot awarded this season? We were awarded 9 penalties. And question 5, how many of those were missed? Just the one. Just the one from Ryan Hill that he missed this season. And I'm gonna call it there. I did try to make a James Henry farewell quiz, but I've got to say I've reread the questions and my God, they're bad. I mean, imagine this as a question, and I'll give you a question, but I can't bother to give you the answer. Name 2 of the 5 teams he has scored 2 or more goals against since joining for Aldershot. What the hell is that question? Where do you even start? I'll just give you the answer anyway. Wealdstone, Braintree, Altrincham, Fylde, and Oldham. Like, what are you going to do with that information? Absolutely useless. Anyway, I mean, it's been a pleasure, James Henry. 83 appearances, 22 goals. It's great, and I hope you come back at some point when you've done all your coaching badges. Anyway, I'm rambling on. End the season now.